made it there. Just a little bit about me, if you want, because sometimes, like my son says, I go off the deep end. I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm an electrical engineer before I got my business degree. So sometimes my son, I was at Delphi for 30 years in research and development in engineering, so that was my background. I retired, when Tony said 14 years, I retired 12 years ago. So I retired pretty young, so kids in high school and college, but I've done pretty well until my wife said I'd get out, so I retired and volunteered to build a 40,000 square foot commercial property because also at Delphi I ran a lot of their maintenance stuff. So I built a big non-profit building. After I did that, so I was only 50 and I was getting bored. So one of my sons said to me, he said, and I don't know if you ever heard of McGowan Bravender. That's my cousins. So my son worked there with Pat. He's my cousin. We all grew up together, and he said, Dad, he said, I've learned about this new stuff called telemedicine. And being family, I mean, it's great. We get along, all our cousins get along. But my son being family, and they knew that, he didn't want to work and start another company and work there. Just usually the employees would frown on that, so he quit. And we started a company called Connect2Docs, and it's with telemedicine. He's the marketing guy. I'm more the engineering, the back person setting the stuff up. Anyway, that's how it got started, but as I researched it, 8 years ago, almost no one, first of all, has anybody heard of telemedicine other than Tony mentioned it, so we're aware of it. 8 years ago, we would go in, I remember doing a presentation to an insurance group in Michigan. I had 400 agents speaking to them at their annual convention. 3 people had even heard of telemedicine 7 years ago, and they were in the insurance world, so even today, we still get a lot of people. We're in about 20 states now, and we still get a lot of people who've never heard of it. But anyway, he wanted to start a business in telemedicine, so that's what we did. And as Tony said, telemedicine, you're able to talk and speak with a doctor anywhere in the United States. Even we have people that go overseas, and you can't get a prescription overseas because the doctors aren't licensed. But if you're down, we'll say in Brazil or Paraguay, or maybe you're over in Asia, you know, sometimes you want to get a second opinion before you take a prescription. If you're overseas and get ill, you can actually call back and talk to a doctor in the U.S. and say, hey, they want to give me this for this condition. Is it safe to take? And so they're even able to do that. But the telemedicine, as Tony said, we've had a lot of people call, and I know we were talking about access to healthcare, and you always think of, well, the doctor's right here and I can just drive over. Well, a lot of people can't because we also, since we were so early into the game, we've made a lot of great contacts where they have telepsychiatry. You don't think of elderly and depression. We have telepsychiatry because, and I know we say, oh, we're in an urban area, but you think of Preble County or Dark County. There's a lot of people I know over there that are farms, and it's still rural, and there's still poor people or people that aren't able to drive or, you know, have trouble getting transportation. And I'll just give you one example of the telepsychiatry they used. Because we have it here, I'm sure, where kids get sent to juvenile detention homes. And this was in Philadelphia area. Well, the detention place was 400 miles away. Well, a lot of that requires family counseling with the parents or parent and the child. Well, if they got to meet with the psychiatrist at the juvenile detention center and it's 300 miles away, maybe that parent doesn't have a lot of financial resources, and for them to have to take off work and go meet once a month, once a week with that counselor and the child, that's very expensive. They use telepsychiatry in that, so the parent could be home on a computer or somewhere where they'll have access, be talking with the child, the parent, and the psychiatrist can actually connect with them so that the parent doesn't have to take off work, drive 300 miles to a juvenile detention center. So a lot of people don't even think of telemedicine like that because they don't think of the psychiatry issue of it. I know we've talked to people a lot about in prisons where they use it because some of the prisons, I'll just say, and I'm nationwide, I know we're focused here locally, but you think in Texas and Alabama and even Michigan was one of the states we talked with. A lot of these prisons are not near big cities. So they don't have doctors and some access to health care that you think of. And so they can use telemedicine for those types of reasons. And people say, well, why would I need this? I've got Medicare or I've already got health care. had people where they go on vacations, and I'm on vacation in Nashville, and I wake up with a sinus infection. Well, if I'm on vacation, I don't want to wait a week with a sinus infection. And if my health care, if I have great health insurance, if I'm out of network in Nashville, Tennessee, guess what I'm probably paying? And if I go to a hospital, that average bill is about $1,300. So for a lot of people, and that's out of pocket, they don't want to pay that $1,300 bill. So we see a lot of that. And as I think I know I've talked with Tony a little bit about it, I see here because my background is research, so I've done a lot of research on things. And I think of, and I'm not picking on CareSource, but I'm just using that because everybody's heard of it, and you think of the Medicaid issues. And what I've read, and I've read Tony's report that he sent out, and that's a lot of it. We'll say that I'm on Medicaid. Well, a lot of times, I'm sorry, but they just don't pay the attention to what it costs. So they wait until they're sick, and they say, oh, I'm going to the urgent, or I'm going to the hospital, to the emergency room, because it's free anyway, and I'm going there. Well, they don't realize the average cost to go to an emergency room is almost $1,500. Whereas if they would have went to a health clinic, a small health clinic, or urgent care, or used telemedicine, the cost to me, I'm being greedy as a taxpayer, might have been $50 or something, instead of $1,500 that they have to pay that hospital or something for those. And so that's why we see telemedicine could really help drive down the costs, for those types of individuals. We have a company that, and some of them, they partner with school systems, because a lot of times schools, the parents, I'm sort of blunt, they just don't take good care of their kids sometimes. And it could be rural, it could be urban, it doesn't matter. It's just a fact of life. And so kids have issues, and the teacher might see that kid come every day, and they notice, and the parents don't notice it. Well, with the telemedicine, they could put that right in the school. And if the teacher says, hey, school nurse, we need to get this kid looked at by a doctor, well, they could do it by telemedicine, have a room, talk to him on a video conference, on a computer or something, and the doctor can, hey, what is that skin rash? What is that? Why is the bruising on the arm? Where they can address it right there. They don't have to take the kid to the urgent care, or pull them out and all that, and look at them right there. So those types of cost savings are huge when you look at, we'll just say $40, $50 cost versus $1,000, $1,500. And that's why we've seen telemedicine as just being the way things, I got my cell phone almost 30 years ago, and everybody said, what in the world do you need a cell phone for? You got a phone at home, you got a pager. Cell phones aren't needed. But now today, I don't think anybody has a home phone. We all have cell phones, and we've seen that telemedicine is the same way. Eventually, there's so much they can do with telemedicine versus, you still need to see a doctor on some things, and we always tell people this does not replace insurance. This does not replace your primary care physician. But we've had people that had one customer, and they sent us emails. They were on vacation, and they were headed to Florida for like a month or something, and they'd stopped at a roadside rest area. They packed their lunch in a cooler. Well, they were elderly, and they had their prescriptions in a brown paper bag. Guess what the guy did at the roadside rest area? Threw it in the trash after they had their picnic lunch. Drove on, didn't realize it for 5 hours that they had, through all him and his wife's prescriptions went in the trash at the roadside rest area, and they were going to be gone. So they were able to call a doctor and at least get a short-term prescription because they were out of state. So, some of their medications, they could at least get by and not drive all the way back to Ohio, and mess up their vacation or anything. So there's a lot of different things that telemedicine encompasses, but those are just a few of the things. In fact, we've got systems now where health clinics can set up their own telemedicine program and put their own doctors on a system where they're not even, I know people have probably heard of TeleDoc and AmeriDoc and some of those things, but we even have just made some great contents where people can have their own software, and they choose the doctors, the clinics or the hospitals or the school systems. They get to put their own doctors into it, and everything goes right to them. So they want to keep that doctor local, because you always want to have a personal physician. And sometimes with telemedicine, for ours, we say our main program is for, I want to say emergency use, but if you're out somewhere on vacation or you got meetings at work and you can't really take off like a realtor or insurance agent, sometimes their schedules get pretty crazy. And they can't always get to the doctor 8 to 5, which most people don't get sick Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 anyway. And so that helps take care of that issue, you know, just allowing them the flexibility. It can be 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whatever.